Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll masech this Nazir Daf Zayin. We're going to begin on the top of Zayin Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah. Mastisen Oimer Hareini Nazir Achas Kadol Hareini Nazir Achas Katana. So a person made this declaration regarding becoming a Nazir, and he says Achas Katana, Achas Kadola, whether it's big, it's small. So Afil Mekan Viad Sofa Olam. Even if he says from here to the rest of the world, Nazir Shloshim Yoim. So in all these situations, it doesn't make any difference. And the Naziris is for the period of 30 days. Let's look in Tosos. Kloimer, Lo Shana Ki Amr Gedola. It makes no difference if he says big, Lo Shna Ki Amr Katana. Doesn't matter if he says small. V'afil Amr Mekan Viad Sof Ha'olam. Even if he says it in that way, Lo Havi Nazir El Shloshim Yoim. So the Mishnah says that he's a Nazir for 30 days. When he said the word Gadol, says Taisus, Kalaimer Gadol Olai HaNazirus, that this Nazirus is very significant to me. The Taricha Olai, because it's a huge trouble. O Katana Kalaimer Delo Taricha Olai Klal. This is not a big deal at all. It's easy for him to do. Afil Mekan Viad Soif HaOilam, the Gemara Mafarish did Taricha, the Aricha, Li milta kimakan viad seif oilam. He's saying that the tircha that I have is like going from one side of the world to the next. Says the Gemara. So why do we say that the Naziris is for 30 days? Well, mekan viad seif oilam kaimer. He mamish said from one side of the world to the next, which sounds much more than 30 days. I guess nowadays you can just take a Concorde, you can fly. It doesn't take 30 days to travel the world. Says Taisus Parish will have Nazir oil. Maybe it means he's a Nazir forever. So on this Gemara says Hachikarmer. What he's saying is Arichalich Hada Milsa, that this matter is heavy and difficult to me. Kimikan viad soiv oilam, like going from one side of the world to the next. Says Taisus. So Chanazirus Kabaleha Lakula. So the reason he's really only accepting himself a 30-day Naziris, and we go lenient to Hachim Ishtamet Fei. It's probably logical that that's probably what he was referring to, and he wasn't saying that he should be a Nazir forever, but rather just simply this notion of saying that it's something which is very, very difficult that he's accepting upon himself. Fine, Tanan. So we learn elsewhere, it says as follows, Hareini Nazir Mikan Vi'ad Makom Ploini. Person says, I will be a Nazir from here until I reach such and such a location, until I get to Cincinnati. So Oimdim we evaluate. Kama Yomim Mikan Vi'ad Makom Ploini. How long does it take for you to get from New York to Cincinnati? So Pachas M'Shloshim Yoim, if it's less than a 30-day travel, then Nazir Shloshim Yoim. So we say that you're a Nazir for 30 days. That's how long you'll be a Nazir, says Taisus. Perish, Dulgara Mikibel Naziris Yom Echad. It's no different than a person who accepts himself that he'll be a Nazir for one day, Davi Nazir Shloshim Yom. That in that situation, once the Naziris is Chal, we say it's for 30 days. However, back in the Gemara, V'im Lav, namely, if let's say it's a longer amount of time to get from here to Cincinnati, Nazir Kaminin HaYamim, then it'll be totally on the amount of days. Says Taisus, Im Lav, Havi Nazir, Kaminyan Yamim, O Mem, O Yud Yom. So let's say it takes 50 days to get to Cincinnati from here. So therefore you'll be a Nazir for 50 days. So on this, the Gemara wonders, back in the Gemara, why don't we say the same thing, that just like in the Sefer of the Mishnah, that when you said that you're only a Nazir for 30 days, so why don't we say that that's probably his mindset here as well, that when he's saying from here to central location, that's also means it's a tircha, and therefore maybe she'll only be for 30 days. So Amar Rava, says because over there the reason is shehichsik baderech, that he already was set out on his journey. Says Taisus, Mishani kishehichsik baderech, he was already on the road. The kibulav, and he accepted upon himself the Naziris there. The mastamim ne'oinse haderech kibulav, probably because of the dangers of the road and all of the different potential issues that could fall. So that's the reason why he made a neder Naziris at that time. Naziris uhi natzel misakanos haderech. Therefore, he made this in order that in this chos he should be saved from any dangers on the road. And therefore he's saying, until I get to this place, that's how long I want to be a Nazir for. So it takes 50 days. So because he's worried about the dangers of the road, so therefore that's the reason why he made this neder. Question 13. So as we said, it's totally on the following. Lo hichsekaderech, which is like our Mishnah, then he's a Nazir for 30 days, regardless. But if he's hichsek b'derech, if he's on the road, we evaluate if it's less than 30 days, it's 30 days. But if it's more than 30 days, then if let's say 50 days is the trip, so that's how long he will be a Nazir for. Okay. So the Gemara is parsa. Why don't we say that each parsa should be its own Nazirus? So Amar Papa be'atra deloy money parsei. It's in a city where we do not count by parsec. Look in the Mefarsh. Lahavi kol parsa parsa chad nazirus. Maybe each parsa should be a nazirus by itself. The dilma haidika aimer mekandiad makom pliny. When he said that from here until this place, kol minyan parsais. He's talking about all the different measures. Mekandiad makom pliny kibolav. Nazirus shel shleishim of 30. So maybe each one, and it says, Vehi megaleach b'soiv kol shleishim. You should shave after every 30 days. V'yavi shleishim behemos, bring 3 karbanos. V'yavi ad hosam mea parsos, if it's 100, l'havi nazir mea nazirus. So maybe he's the nazir for 100 times. So more answers that that's not in a place where people will count by parsings. L'havi kol unna v'unna. Why do we say that it should be like the center of town? Milo Tanan, do we not learn? Harini Nazir Kafar Aretz. For instance, I'm a Nazir just like the earth on the ground, Ukashar Raishia, the hair on my head, Ukachol Hayam, like the sand in the sea, Harizin Nazir Oilam. So these are things. It's very clear that because you can't count the amount of pieces of sand or on the beach, so therefore you're making yourself into a Nazir Oilam. So this is some Farsh explains like this. Dihavi esrim nois. Let's say it's 20 centers of town. L'chayavachol esrim shel shleishim shleishim. So maybe you have to count 30 days for every single town. So our answer is Kol Mil said the East Bay Kitsutsa Lokatani. Anything in which has a set amount or a measurement, Lokatani, that is not mentioned. Now let's go back in the Mefarish. Lo Nazir Oilam. Since each is a separate Nazirus, he has to shave every 30 days. The Mashma, Yomer Harilay Nazir Kaminyan Seroishi. So, Mikan, the Makabal Leha Chad Nazirus Arichta on Mokamplaini. So, on this, fine. So, he said, Kol Milsa, the Ispi Kitsutsa, Lo Katani. Fine. So, Vosanya is actually a proof. Says the Mefarish, the Messiah. Hareini Nazir kol yimei chayai. I'm a Nazir all my life. Hareini Nazir oilam. So you're a Nazir forever. Harei zen Nazir oilam. Now feel mea shana, I've been 100 years. I feel elf shana, 1,000 years. Ein zen Nazir oilam. El Nazir li oilam. So what is this referring to? So what is it? A Nazir li oilam. So says the Mefarish, the kachad Nazirus arich dedam. It's like one long Nazirus. Menu mutter miskalachas kol yamav. Since you said it in this way, you can never shave. In a situation where there's no set amount or no set measurement, can go in kasir roishi, like the hairs in your head. That's not something which is measurable. There's no way you can count it. Why'd you say it in this way? And the Nazirus harbe kibol, you're accepting many Nazirus. Like the amount of hairs in your head. So he basically says like this: if it's something which is the easily kitsut, the lacely kitsutza, so in that situation, the din is, then you are a nazir countless times, and every 30 days is like a new nazirus. However, if it's something that has the kitsutza, then in that situation, the din is you're a nazir oil, and to the extent that you can never change. You can never cut your hair. That's why it says, Vasani, Hareini Nazir Kol Yimei Chaya, Hareini Nazir Oilam. Hare Zen Nazir Oilam, Afil Mea Shana, fine. Afil Mea Shana, Afil Elf Shanim. Ein Zen Nazir Oilam, El Nazir Lit Oilam. Rava Oimer Shani Saras, hairs are different. Hoyel Umivdolis Zu Mizu. Because hairs can be separated one from another. Says the Mefarish, Ikol Meimer Delaminian Sa'aros Kibulav. He's just talking about the hairs on his head, which is Nazirus Harbe, many Nazirus. Lokach Megalech Achas Hashashim. That's why you can cut every 30 days. Avo Oino Parsi, when it comes to measurements, miles, kilometers, Lekol Meimer you can't say the same thing. Daha Leisnahu Muvdolos Sumazu. They're not something you can physically separate. The Sanda Ba'arachadhu, because the ground is like one mass. Ikol Meimer Chan Nazirus Arichta Kibolam. It's like he accepted only one Nazirus. Kishir Hayomim Shemikanad Makam Pliny. Fine. Gabi Yomi Nami, but when it comes to days also, Haksiv Vihir Vihiboker Yom Echad. So each day is also its own entity. Says the Mefarish, Daha Yomi Misaki Mehadadi, Keneksiv Vihir Vihiboker. Mohasam Lo Demafsaki Mehadadihu. No, over there it's not that they're separated. My Karmer, Yom Valayla Chad Yomahu. It's just saying the day and the night is one day. But we're not really separating one from the next. Rabbi Omer Lamalach Akshui Kuli Hai. Why are you asking these questions? Shani Hasam Dalkatani Harini Nazir Achas. Right? It says it beferish. If you look at the Mishnah, it says Harini Nazir Achas Kedoila. Harini Nazir Achas Katana. So in our Mishnah says the Mefarish, Taimamai Omer Kamandi Omer Richa Li Milsa Mikan Viad Soif Oilam. Why is it like he said that it's this tircha? V'eno Nazir El Shoshim. He's only for 30 days. Don Kamer Achas. Damash Mechad Nazirasi. It's clear he's saying it's only one Naziris. That's what he's saying. Avol Heichad Kamer Mikan Viad Makam Ploini V'lo Omer Achas. He doesn't say the word Achas. Lo Efsher Di Imani Loch the Kibole Habatzer to Mahal Chayamim. You can't possibly say it's less than the amount of time it takes to travel. It must be that he's specifying that it's more days than that. But our Mishnah is different because the Mishnah of Beferish says the word achas, and therefore because of that, it's clear. It's a clear distinction. TA 12. Amar Hareini Nazir Achas, which kind of gives it away. Mikan vi'ad makam ploini madinai. TA 12. So the answer is Imo hechsek derech, which is mamish question 13, right? It sounds very much like question 13. So if you're not hechsek derech, so it's 30 days. Ve'im lo hechsek derech, so if it's less than 30 days, it's 30 days. If it's more than 30 days, it's the amount of days it takes to travel from one place to the next, which is mamish the same question that we said before. TB 13. Hareini Nazir Shloishim Yoim v'Yoim Echad. Kami Yimei Nazir's Kibul Atzamu Uma Hatam. Which I'm not sure if we got to this yet. Okay, weiter. Let's see the next Mishnah. So the Mishnah says like this. Hareini Nazir v'Yoim Echad. Person says, I'm a Nazir and 1 day. Hareini Nazir v'shachas, and 1 hour. Hareini Nazir achas umechsa. I'm a Nazir 1.5. So we say Hareini Nazir shtayim. So even though all he did was just add a small amount of time, but because he extended, it was additional words, so therefore we say it must be that he's coming to add an additional Naziris onto himself. So that's what it's coming to say. Says the Gemara, so Lamula Misni Kol Hani. Why do you have to mention all these cases? If he says I'm a Nazir and 1 day, we know that the Naziris cannot be for 1 day, so it must be that he's a Nazir, he has 2 Naziris. If he says I'm a Nazir and 1 hour, so Limni Lamed V'Yom Echad. Maybe we would just count 30 and 1 day. Says the bottom, Mafarish Ima to the Havi Kamandi Amr Shlishim Echad Kamash 1. It's maybe it's kilo like he's saying 31. Maybe that's all he's referring to. So Kamash 1, that no, he's actually accepting upon himself an entire second Naziris. The Itan, as we continue in Zayin Mebez, Sha'achas Mishum Doli Nachas Ladavka. So if he mentions an hour, we said maybe it's a second. It extends is because we don't say that he's going to be precise in this fashion. Once he's saying 1.5, the nachas ladavka, it seems clear he's being precise. Amalo, maybe it's not a second Nazirus. So Amalo limni tarti, maybe it's not two. Kamashmon kulu Nazir shtayim, all of them is two. Okay. Next Masnisan. Hareini Nazir shloishim yoim. I'm a Nazir for 30 days. Vishachas, and 1 hour. Nazir shloishim v'echad yoim. She'en Nazirus l'shois. So in that situation, he will be a Nazir for 31 days, because we do not say Nazirus l'shois. The only time we say this din is if he says shloishim echad yom, that the din is that he's going to be a Nazir for 31 days. If he says the word yoim and then yoim, he says it twice, so therefore we say Nazir shtayim. He's actually going to be a Nazir in that situation 2 times. Fine. Let's look at this bottom Taisus over here. Hareini Nazir v'yom echad hachahu di'ein Nazirus yom echad. It says Elo lamed yoyim l'hachi mani tarti Nazirus. Avol oimer hareini Nazir v'sha'achas. We just mentioned 1 hour. Kilu oimer Nazir sha'achas 1 hour l'minyan lamed v'echad. The sachadat d'dai lanu ma'isa shal la'asos yoyim. Mustarfin b'hadi lamed yoyim. It should be included. Make it 31 days. Fine. V'itana sha'achas mishum dolenachas ladafka, says the Taisa shenu yachal liyos, can't be. She'ein noidrin shois. We know that we don't make a net by hours. Givan sheish l'hoisev al divora. He added onto his words noisev nazirus shalim. He's adding an entire nazirus. Aval oimer achas o mechsa de nachas ladafka shiachal liyos nazir. You could be a nazir in that situation. Maybe it's exactly what it is. Okay, so again, if you say yoim, yoim, so then the din is that it's considered to be as 2 nazirus. Says the Mefarish, about Hareini Nazir shloishim yom v'yom echad kivandi amar lishni yasera. Since you said this extra language, how many Nazir shtayim? You're Nazir 2. Did not. As we learned, it says as follows: Loi es habor v'los hadus avol pishikasav loi umka v'ruma v'sarach likach l'derach de Rabbi Kiva. So let's look at Taisus. So, loy is a habor, not part of the. It's not part of that sale of the house. She'enu b'chlal bias. That all these different things are not considered to be, when you sell your house, is included in the sale. The sarech moicher, the seller, will need zelikach l'derech. He's going to actually have to pay for a road to get labor min alakech. So even though he purchased the house, but he'll also have to purchase the path as well. So he said that when he sells something, the question is he selling it with an ayin yafa, and he didn't leave anything over to himself? So the idea is like this. Let me make sure I said it properly. A person sells only his house, but he leaves the, let's say, a water well, which he's keeping for himself. So the question is, did he also include the path to get to that water well as part of the sale? Because he didn't sell the water well. So according to this, because ayin yafa machar, you sold it with a good eye, you're basically saying that you need to still purchase a path, because a person sold this with a good eye, and therefore, since you need to get to the water well, in which is, let's say, on this property which you now sold, so now you have to pay for the path. We're not going to say that you kept the path for yourself. Loas abor v'loas ados. And it says, even if you specified and you said the specifies of the depths and the measurements, Rabbi Kiva says it doesn't matter. Even though you added those extra words, which is like Lishni Yisera, nonetheless you still have to pay for that. You do not need to do so, says Taisus, because you actually kept the path for yourself, and therefore you don't have to pay him additionally for the path. Rabbi Kiva, who normally says that you would have to pay for the path, if you would have said chutz me'elu, which is Lishni Yisera, why? Says Taisus, sheyitar b'l'shaynai, because you added to the language, shebulav hachi lo machar sabar, because you didn't sell the bor anyway. It must be the reason why you said this is in order to keep the path for yourself. And therefore, so too, the fact that you had a Lishni Yisera of saying Yom, Yom, therefore it's considered to be like 2 Nazirus. We'll stop there. Let's see question 14. Mehim hadugma os. Shehus gemar lahadar mikiba darish Lishni Yisera. So one was, again, if a person sells a house to his friend and he adds the words chutz min habor, so l'shayel atzmo derech l'schaven. His intention was also to keep the path, and also when we're going to Nazirus, the person says, "I'm a Nazir shloishim yoim for 30 days, v'yoim echad," and one day. Why do you say yoim and yom? So in that situation, the extra lashon makes you considered to be a Nazir not just for an extra day, but it's a whole new set of Nazirus. Okay, let's see, possibly TA 13. No, we didn't do that yet. Possibly TB 13. Yes. So TB 13. Hareini Nazir Shleishim Yoim Vi Yoim Echad. So you said Yoim twice. Kami Yimei Nazirus Kibul Atzmo 2 Umatam. So the reason why you're accepted to Nazirus is because since you had the extra lashon, so of Yom, we darshan that this Lishni Yisera is to say that your intention was for another set of Nazirus. So instead of just being an additional day, it's an entire new set of Nazirus. Adkan.